Day 3, and here we are with EVT, ready to take your team higher, talking about the methodology of training and why it's integral, not optional. Tune in with Alyssa and Caitlin from EVT now.
All right. So a fun little mountain climbing. I don't think either Caitlin and I are going to be doing that anytime soon. But still, it's good times. Thanks for being back with us today. We are going to talk with you guys about our training methodology and how we do that. So really what we're looking at doing here is taking your team higher. So I'm going to have Caitlin start us off, and we're going to walk through the basic points of it today, and we'll go from there. So Caitlin, go ahead, lead us off, would you?
All right. So we'll jump right in with the overview, and you can see HIRE is an acronym. Both Alyssa and I love acronyms, and we like to make them up whenever we can. And here we are with HIRE, which really is a methodology for creating and then maintaining a team and getting that team to really operate at the next level. So the first step in that is hiring, is getting the right folks on your team, then instructing, setting goals, holding people accountable to those goals, empowering them to take action to be successful and to achieve those goals, and then relying on your team, not trying to do everything yourself. And we'll talk a little bit about how we put it into practice. And if we're able to be nice and succinct today, we'll leave some time for comments, questions, and concerns. So if we go to the next slide, Alyssa and I had fun with this picture. You know, at the end of the day, we are not robots. And so when you hire people on your team, you've got to make sure you understand what is their skill set, where are they at in their career journey, what are your team dynamics, how will they fit in the team dynamics, can you grow them to be part of the team, and also can you think about what the team will look like with a new employee, because every time we bring somebody else onto the team, that fundamentally changes the team dynamics, and we're starting fresh with a new team. We want to think about our we want to think about our process to internal versus external. We tend to hire a lot internally when we have the folks available because we know them and we know their skill set, we know how they fit, we know how they interact with the team. But you often have to look out externally and find the right folks for your team, and bringing in a fresh set of eyes can often be really helpful. And then once you've got those folks in, you want to make sure you're keeping them on the right track, growing their career, and that's where we come in with talking about instruct.
All right, and I'm going to take over on this one because apparently I like to teach. I don't know, some of you on this call may know that that's a true thing. So really why all of these different points are up there is because they are all vitally important. They're all different. So teaching, training, and coaching, none of them are the same thing. We have a couple coaches on the call with us today, right? So when you're coaching someone, that's just it. You're coaching the individual. When you're training the skill. And when you're teaching, it's a combined approach of the two, but it's still its own unique skill set. So in the communication piece of that, what you also have to consider is how people learn and how you teach. Because if you have someone that instructs one way and someone who learns another, it's not gonna work, right? So learning how people learn, learning how people teach, and making sure that that relationship matches and is a cohesive approach is vitally important. And that's the integration piece, right? When you're working at developing a training program, especially in a hands-on industry like we have in vet med, on-the-job training, it's critical, it's crucial, it's how we roll, right? But how many of us here, I mean, if you're on camera, great. If not, you can kind of put up one of those little reactions, raise your hand. How many of you started a job and were like, okay, welcome on the team, here you go. And you're like, okay, there's 200 team members and I don't know anybody and I just came from GP and oh my God, right? It's terrifying. So it's an integrative piece is just, it's not going to work. without making sure that you have that program in place and the methodology for it. And then you've got to consider too, it's not just the recruitment process. Yes, we need new team members in vet med. Got it. What about the folks that have been here for a long time, right? What are we doing for them? What are their strengths? What are their areas that they want to grow in, right? What can they do that's different and give something back to themselves and the whole team? And that's where mentoring comes in. If you guys were here, and I think most of you were that are here with us today, were here yesterday and speaking with Valerie, mentorship is huge. Have we all had bad ones? Yes. Have we had good ones? I hope so. And what is that important piece of it? It's someone to go through it with you, right? Someone who's supportive, who's got constructive criticism, who's not going to be unavailable, who's really going to persistently push you to be the best version of yourself. And then you get into that networking piece, and that's what this is about, right? Because Shanna and Caitlin and Lauren and Tracy and Jen, you all bring something to a conversation that I don't have, right? And conversely, I give you something. So we learn by networking with one another. And that's how a veterinary practice works. Regardless if it's general practice or specialty emergency, every department has to do this instead of this and instruct one another and stop hiding behind those closed doors. And it kind of looks like this, right? So visual aids, hi, visual learner right here. Train them, communicate it, and everybody grows. And that's what we're looking to do. And I'm going to pass it back to Kate.
All right. And so as you put that instruction plan together, you want to set goals. And this is for team growth. This is for personal growth. But we need to put them down on paper. There's a couple reasons. You can't get to what you don't measure. So if we don't write it out, or to steal a term from vet med, if you didn't write it down, it didn't happen. So we've got to put this on paper, and that also gives our team focus. They know what they're working towards, whether it's a business goal or an instruction goal. They know the steps they need to take. They know when they've reached the end. And there's a couple of good models that we really like, the GROW model and SMARTER. And so you can see here for GROW, it's another acronym, and it goes goal, reality, option, way. And I'll try to go through these really quick, but goal, what are you trying to get to? What is your reality? So make sure that goal is achievable, and that whatever sacrifices and steps that you have to take to get that goal, you are willing and able. And that's a really tough question, especially the willing piece of it. Are you able to leave your family for months on end to let to make this goal happen? Are you able to give up your day job to make this goal happen? So this piece can take a lot of really detailed self-assessment, and that's something that we're not always good at. Even if we're good at self-assessing, we may convince ourselves, yeah, I could totally do that. So be realistic with yourself. Look at what your options are. What tools do you have available to you? What resources do you have available to you? If you don't have them today, what do you need to go get to be able to achieve this goal? And getting the support of your organization in hand to provide you with those different options that are going to help you along the way. And then the way forward, looking at the steps that you're going to take to get there. I like to talk a lot, almost every goal that you set, you can break it down into smaller goals, and the smaller chunks you put it in, the more realistic it's going to be, and the more successful you'll feel because you're hitting those steps along the way, which leads nicely into SMARTER goals, which Alyssa can help me animate here. And that acronym was started as SMART, so specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. And then over time, we've added on evolving and readjust. And the idea here, again, is very similar. You want to be very succinct in the goal that you are setting. I come from the business engineering world, so we want to grow our revenue by 10% in the first quarter. Hits all of those. I can measure that. I know what my revenue is today, and I can measure what my revenue is at the end of the first quarter. I have it time bound. I know I want to achieve this by the end of March. And it's realistic. We'll assume 10% growth in this industry, in this business, is realistic. I didn't say 90% or 50%. And so you've got to keep it something that people, as you share these goals out, that people say, I can achieve that. We can achieve that. that's not, completely daydreaming. And that's not to say you don't want goals to be challenging, because you get what you expect from people. And if you expect more, you will find that they give you more. But there's a difference between challenging and unrealistic. And that's that R there, that realistic and that achievable. And then those last two pieces, evolving and readjust. Your variables change every day in this equation about how it will take you to get to that goal. And so you need to look at how the situation is evolving. How are your resources changing? How is your time changing? And you might need to readjust as you look at that evolution of life, of work, of employees and resources.
Absolutely. I mean, if you want to think about that too, in terms of like a specific skill. So, think about going back to the ER, right? And you need to learn how to put a sampling line in. Okay, so that's your goal. I need to put a sampling line in. Which species, please? Okay, is it dog or cat? Focus on the dogs first. You can use a bigger gauge catheter to feed it through. Okay, and what's your time frame? And who are you going to be working with? And all of those kinds of things. So take it skill by skill and an area by area. And having accountability, this is where having a team is huge, right? So, for example, with Kate and I, if I miss something, I know for sure I'm going to be getting excuse me, what was happening there, right? And I will do the same for her. And in any setting in veterinary medicine, this is the same thing. We go way beyond coworkers here, right? Anyone that's ever done CPR or a dental on a very tiny animal, you are a team when you are that close in proximity to one another. There's no way you aren't, right? You're too involved, you're too covered in all of the things. So when you have accountability, this H part, is you're doing that for yourself, you're showing up, and you're doing it for your teammates because you're showing up for them. And in turn, it's cyclical, right? And this guy's got it, right? Don't be shy about it, right? You can't be, right? Especially in the times that we're in right now. The wait lines are awful. Clients are less than ideal. And there's so much going on that if you don't speak up and have a voice, there's maybe not someone else that's going to do it for you unless you have that type of accountability established within your organization, right? So every practice needs to have this in place. Like, okay, this is what it's going to look like. This is the skill set we're going to approach. This is how we're going to do it together. And this is how we're going to make sure it happens. Right? So it goes hand in hand with those goal settings. You need to make sure that you show up for yourself and your team, and that your practice is showing up for you. And this goes right into beautifully empower, which is, it's funny that we actually picked this word. It's like it's in our company name or something. And the reason we chose it is not because we're going to be empowering veterinary teams. We can't do that. What we can do is give you the tools and the materials for you to empower yourselves. And that's what this is all about, right? So guaranteed, Lauren and Tracy and Jen and Shanna and Caitlin, you all have something in your toolkit that I wish I did, right? So I'm going to find out what that is, and then you get to teach everybody about it, right? Because I recognize that I'm not an expert in everything. I'm an expert because I know the other experts. And I'm going to make sure that I use my time wisely and delegate that out. Right? So I've got my cat whisperers. I've got my people that will actually handle German Shepherds because they scare me. And I've got folks that head into internal medicine because I can set up the endoscope, but you don't really want me cleaning it. But if you need to go into the OR, I'm your gal for anesthesia. And if you're really worried about critical cats, yes, please give them to me all day. But that's, again, where we support one another, is when we recognize and delegate, and that way we can make that work together. Because we become a much more emboldened and a powerful team when we support one another and recognize each other's strengths and areas of expertise and work in a joint effort to make that happen. Because if you don't, and if you're always like, well, I can do this, and no, don't worry about it, I got it, you're going to feel that weight just pushing you down. And I know how strong all of us are, but there reaches a point where we don't need to be that strong. Right? So we can't go up the flight of stairs if we're carrying everything on our backs. So take a little bit off. And I'm going to ask Caitlin to carry this part for me. And she's going to pivot table the heck around the spreadsheets that I don't know how to do it. Right? And Jen's going to wrangle those angry dogs for me because I'm having a rough day. And Tracy, you're going to deal with those angry clients because I just can't even. And Lauren, I like a spicy burrito, but this one's a little bit much for me. Okay, and that way I can focus on making sure that everything else runs smoothly and we can move onwards together. And I just really love this picture. This imagery is really powerful for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about why we picked this picture, this is somebody giving this person the tools so that instead of having to pick it up for them, they now have the power to pick it up for themselves. And if we go to the next one, we need to rely on ourselves, like in that last picture, once we have the power, and we need to rely on our team. And the team leader care here is this really does take care of your whole team. When you take that weight off, when you share it, when you Liz, we lost the presentation there.
Oh, sorry. Am I back?
Yep,
right.
You're good. That's okay. When you work as a team, when you really trust, you are going to find that it's a healthier environment, and that comes from the base. You need to build that foundation, and that's with all the steps we talked about before: getting the right people on, having the right growth plan for them, holding them accountable when they're not meeting their goals, and setting those goals and tracking towards them. The next two, team council, trusted advisors, really tie into each other. Don't do this alone. Please don't do this alone. We cannot all be experts in everything. And in fact, that's kind of the antithesis of the definition of expert. So find what you are strongest at and surround yourself with people who are strong in other areas. Because as a team with all of those different experts, when you really rely on their knowledge, you will be unstoppable. And that means ask for their advice, ask for their opinion, and then take it. Show them you value it by taking their advice. One of the important pieces of this too is putting down on paper, what is your organizational structure? Who does what? Who reports to whom? How do we flow up problems? How do we send down vision and mission? And at the end of the day, what are you responsible for? And how do we hold you accountable to what? So make sure you put it on paper so the team knows who to rely on for what skill set. Like Alyssa was talking about before, who are your cat people? Who are your dog people? Who is amazing at anesthesia? And at the end of the day, if you're in a leadership position, there are decisions that you're going to have to make, and you cannot make them in a completely democratic environment. So take the advice of your folks and really take it into account and use that to make strong, empowered decisions and lead your team.
Perfect. So true. And I mean, we don't really shake hands anymore, but still, yeah, hand it over. So how do we put it into practice? EVTraining, here we are, right? You guys came here today, and this is how we standardize everything. Yes, we know. Policies and protocols, and I have to do another evaluation. Yes, you do. The reason is, if you have this to rely on, you don't have to think extra. You don't have to take that other step and you're just like, okay, how do we do this again? You already know, right? And this sets that foundation that you can build upon, right? How do you incentivize people to do this? Well, do you want to be doing the same job for the rest of your career in the same way? No, right? What's the only constant in this world? Change. And is it comfortable though? No, not always, but think about how we feel after a workout. It hurts because we've broken a muscle down and we're building something new and it's getting better, right? So this is where we tie it all together, right? This is that accountability piece. Again, holding yourself to the task and making sure you're doing that for your team and making sure that they do that for you. Be like, hey, I need some help here. Like I need to meet these goals. Like I want to get better. I want to go to this conference. I want to learn this skill. I want to get my specialization, whatever it is. I'm going to follow up on, because I literally am a person of my word, and that's what we all need to be. And this is where we establish that growth mindset. You can have that static one where like, this is how we've always done it. Oh, yeah, how's that working for you so far? Right? We've all been there for a long time. So we are now in this era of change and evolution, and it's going in a great way, but it takes time. I mean, think about the Sequoia Redwoods. They didn't get that big overnight, right? So having that mindset that growth is what we need to do, but it's going to take time and effort is crucial. And that's where
this also goes back to one of our favorite sayings we talked about last time, is we never stop learning. We never stop growing. So don't take that out of your your vernacular, and always be looking towards the next thing, and having that awareness of where you are today as a team, as a person, and where if you put this all in practice, and it is something that you have to continually look at, continually be aware of, continue to grow, continue to learn, but it will enable you for long-term success with a very healthy and happy team along the way.
Absolutely. And if it's you're at a point where you're with your team and it's not going anywhere, then having an external perspective may be exactly what you need. So that's what we've talked about today. So the HIRE method is that lovely acronym, right? So we're going to do hire, we're going to instruct, we're going to establish some goals, we're going to have accountability, we're going to empower everyone and ourselves, and we're going to rely on each other. So now you have to formulate a plan. Ha ha ha. Can we help you with that? Absolutely. But you have to be invested, right? Because nothing is going to go anywhere if you are not willing to put in the work. And not you personally, I mean, a little bit, but you, everybody in general, right? Nothing's going to change until we really invest of ourselves. So going back to what Caitlin was talking about, know your steps, right? Talk about your smarter goals and how you have that growth mindset. Understand your team, right? I love being the center of attention. Shocker, I know. And does Caitlin always know? Do I push her there? Absolutely, because she's got a lot of great stuff to say. And she's also really good at encouraging me to take a step back and think about things, right? Because we all have those moments where we just have to step outside of ourselves and really take that moment to do a self-check. So how do we move forward? Kate, what do we do?
We move forward together and call us. We love training. We love growth. We'd love to assess your team, and lay out those plans. We've done this before, and we would like to do it again. And
again,
even in your own team, our list calls us a tapering pred dose. We come in, we give you the tools, and then you have to take it and run with it. And that's what we've talked about throughout this entire method. So whether it's with us or on your own, you've got to figure out what the tools are that your team needs and give them those tools.
Absolutely. And so that is us and the HIRE method.